In today's video, we will explore the incredible journey of the chosen ones, from their very first breath to the moment they recognize their divine purpose. We will discover how each of us is chosen for a special mission and how this is reflected in our lives. Are you ready to understand how your story is intertwined with a greater plan and how this can transform your perception of the world? Keep watching, and I want to know if you've ever felt like you are following a greater purpose in your life. Leave a comment below, as I'd love to hear what you think. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and please comment on where you are watching from so we can connect even more. From the moment you took your first breath, an invisible force was already at work. You were chosen by something far greater than human comprehension, set apart from the very beginning. It doesn't matter how you were born or where you came into the world. The fact is that your existence has a divine purpose, drawn long before you opened your eyes to this reality. Most people believe life begins only at birth, but the chosen ones know that their spiritual journey begins much earlier. Your soul was carefully prepared to be here, at this exact moment, living through exactly what you are experiencing. Believe me, nothing is by chance. Every detail, from the place you were born to the first words you heard, is part of a much larger plan. You were chosen by God, and from your first breath, you were destined to follow a unique path. This is a truth many spend their entire lives unaware of, but the chosen ones always feel that something is different. There is a restlessness within you, a feeling that your life holds deep meaning. From the moment your lungs filled with air for the first time, you carried a spiritual mark that cannot be ignored. This calling is what makes you question, seek, and feel different, even when those around you don't understand why. You may not have been aware of it from the beginning, but everything you've faced up to this point has been preparation for something greater. From birth, a sacred energy has guided every step, protecting and preparing you for the moment you would finally awaken to your true mission. And that moment is drawing near. Every breath you take is connected to a purpose. You may have been called even from your mother's womb, chosen for a life far beyond common expectations. With every heartbeat, you move closer and closer to your divine destiny. It's no coincidence that you're here, listening to these words right now. Your spirit recognizes that this message speaks directly to your essence. But the path of the chosen is never easy. And that's why you need to understand that, from your very first breath, your life has been marked by challenges, not as punishments, but as ways to prepare you. Every difficulty, every moment you felt lost or directionless, was part of the plan. The battles you've faced since the beginning are like precious stones that have polished your soul, making you stronger, wiser, and closer to the purpose for which you were sent to this world. You were called, and this calling has been with you since the moment you were born. Now you are beginning to remember who you truly are and the power that has always been within you. And this is just the beginning of your journey. From a very young age, you started to feel that you were different. Perhaps it was something you couldn't explain, but the feeling was there, present in every moment of your childhood. While other children seemed carefree, playing without deep thoughts, you had an unusual sensitivity. You saw the world differently. There was a depth in your thoughts and emotions that at times seemed to isolate you from others. This was no accident. The chosen ones are touched by something spiritual from their earliest years. Do you remember those moments of loneliness when it felt like no one around you understood you? This happened because, even without knowing it, you were already in tune with a much greater energy. Perhaps you didn't have the words to describe it at the time, but your spirit already knew that you had a special mission. That feeling of not fully belonging to the environment around you, of seeking answers no one else seemed interested in, was the first sign of the calling that was pulsing within you. Chosen ones, from childhood, have a connection with the invisible. While others follow the normal paths of life, you had a curiosity that went beyond the superficial. Perhaps you spent hours in silence, observing the world, reflecting on things that seemed to have no explanation. And in those moments you were not alone. Even if you couldn't see it, a spiritual presence accompanied you, guiding and protecting you, preparing your soul for the challenges that were to come. Perhaps you recall situations where you felt an invisible force directing you, steering you away from dangers, or placing you in situations that seemed improbable. When we look back, we realize that everything had a purpose. Nothing you experienced was in vain. Every event, every person who crossed your path was part of a spiritual preparation. It was as if the universe was shaping you for something greater, something you didn't fully understand in your childhood, but that slowly began to reveal itself. Many chosen ones report having strange or supernatural experiences in childhood that others might find unusual. Maybe you dreamed of things that seemed impossible or had a feeling of knowing something before it happened. These small manifestations are common among the chosen because, from an early age, your soul is already in tune with the divine. It doesn't matter if no one believed you at the time, or if you chose to keep these experiences to yourself. The important thing is that all of this was part of your spiritual awakening. In those moments when you felt different, when the world around you didn't make sense, it was the universe calling you to recognize your true nature. Perhaps you tried to fit in, to be like others, but something inside you always resisted. This is the fate of the chosen ones, not to follow the common path, but to carve out a unique journey. And since childhood, these signs were already present, indicating that something special was reserved for you. The chosen ones are protected by a higher force from an early age. Maybe you can't remember all the details, but if you stop and reflect, you'll realize there were moments when something out of the ordinary happened to protect you. It could have been an accident avoided, a word of comfort from an unexpected person, or even that inexplicable sense of peace in the midst of chaos. These are the signs of the divine presence that has accompanied you since childhood, shaping your path and preparing you for the mission that was to come. Looking back now, you can begin to understand that all these signs were part of your spiritual training. Without even knowing it, you were being prepared from an early age for the role you would play as a chosen one. Every emotion, every sense of isolation, every unanswered question was part of something greater. And that greater something is your divine mission, which began to take shape long before you were conscious of it. There comes a moment in the life of all chosen ones when the weight of this journey begins to manifest more strongly. For many, this happens in adolescence, a phase full of questions, changes, and above all, confusion. It's when the feeling of being different, which was subtly noticeable in childhood, becomes a reality you can no longer ignore. The internal struggle begins, and the chosen ones feel this with greater intensity than most people. You might remember moments when you looked around and felt like you didn't belong anywhere. Other teenagers seemed so sure of their paths, while you wrestled with deep doubts and questions no one could answer. Insecurities arose, but at the same time, there was something inside you that knew these doubts were a reflection of the spiritual call that you didn't yet fully understand. This is the weight of being chosen, knowing deep down that your life would not be like everyone else's. While your friends were worried about superficial things, you found yourself immersed in thoughts about the meaning of life, your place in the world, and why you seemed to be on a completely different journey. The expectations that the world placed on you didn't seem to fit with what you felt inside. There was a constant battle between trying to adapt to social norms and the invisible force pulling you away from them. You felt misunderstood, maybe even a little lost. But this internal struggle was necessary. It was the universe's way of preparing you, making you question things so that one day you would find the answers. The chosen ones go through intense trials during adolescence, as this is when the awakening starts to intensify. Doubts multiply, and emotions seem always to be on edge. It's not uncommon for many chosen ones to face feelings of loneliness, isolation, or even inadequacy. This doesn't happen by chance. These internal battles are part of the process of spiritual growth. It's as if your soul is being refined, purified, so that you can gradually align with your divine purpose. And as if that weren't enough, many chosen ones feel that while they struggle internally, they also begin to attract external challenges. Life seems to get harder, situations more complicated, and relationships more challenging. This is common for those who are set apart for a higher mission. The trials that arise during adolescence are like a test, a way of preparing you for the responsibilities that lie ahead. The universe never places something in your life that you're not capable of overcoming, but in the moment, it can be hard to understand that. The pressure of being different, of carrying something so grand inside, can feel too heavy. Perhaps you felt during this phase that doors seemed to close, or that things just didn't work out for you the way they did for others. But that feeling that the world was against you was actually a sign that the path the universe was preparing for you was unique. You weren't called to follow the crowd, and you weren't called to live an ordinary life. This is a difficult truth to accept, especially when you're still trying to figure out who you really are. While your friends were out having fun, going to parties, or following society's expected paths, you felt a restlessness. Maybe you forced yourself to try to fit in, to act like the others, but deep down there was always that quiet voice saying, "This is not for you." And the more you tried to ignore it, the louder that voice became, reminding you that your mission was different. The internal struggle of the chosen ones during adolescence is intense, but it has a purpose. Every moment of doubt, every internal conflict, every tear you shed, all of it was part of a larger process. The universe was molding you, preparing you for what was to come. That feeling of not belonging, of being lost, was your soul adjusting to the true path you were meant to walk. Even though you didn't understand it at the time, this internal struggle was the beginning of your awakening. It was as if the universe was calling you louder and louder to recognize what you had always been, a chosen one. Even if you tried to run from this truth, it kept following you. And as painful as that phase was, it was essential for you to eventually begin to embrace your true identity. The transition into adulthood is a crucial point for the chosen ones. After an adolescence marked by doubts and internal conflicts, there comes a moment when the pieces of the puzzle start to fit together, bit by bit. What once seemed like a mix of confusion and uncertainty begins to make sense, and you start to realize that the experiences you've lived through had a much greater purpose than you could have imagined. Awakening at this stage of life is like a lightning bolt illuminating the darkness. Suddenly everything becomes clear. You begin to realize that it wasn't just life shaping you, but an invisible force, a spiritual presence that has been with you from the very beginning. It is at this moment that many chosen ones feel called to something higher, something that transcends worldly concerns. Perhaps you've already noticed this. That inner voice that once whispered now speaks louder, demanding your attention. It's no longer possible to ignore. Your spirit is awakening, and with this awakening comes a deeper understanding of who you really are. The situations that once frustrated you or led nowhere now begin to make sense. You realize that every obstacle, every challenge overcome, was preparing you for what is to come. Spiritual awakening in adulthood is marked by a sense of clarity. The doubts that tormented your mind in your youth begin to fade, and in their place a certainty arises. You were chosen for a unique mission. However, this awakening is not always peaceful. For many chosen ones, the arrival of adulthood brings even more pressure. The responsibilities of daily life, society's expectations, and even family ties can become sources of tension. You feel like you're being pulled in several directions at once, as if the world wants to trap you in a routine life. But something inside you resists. You know you weren't made for a life of conformity, and this creates a constant conflict between what is expected of you and what your spirit desires. For the chosen ones, adulthood is the time when the spiritual mission begins to reveal itself more clearly. Perhaps you have felt an irresistible urge to seek more answers, more meaning, more purpose. This thirst for understanding is part of your calling. You are not here just to live an ordinary life. Your destiny is much greater than following the rules of the world. And it is in this awakening that you begin to connect with this truth. Many chosen ones in adulthood start to have more intense spiritual experiences. Perhaps you've had vivid dreams, repeated signs, or even encounters with people who seem to have appeared in your life at just the right time. These experiences are not coincidences. They are reminders from the universe calling you to accept your true identity and embrace the path that has been laid out for you from the beginning. But with the awakening also comes responsibility. Now you can no longer deny who you are. Life may continue to present you with distractions, difficulties, and even temptations to pull you off course, but your spirit has already recognized the truth. The more you try to run from this calling, the heavier it becomes. Awakening is a point of no return. From here on, you can no longer live with your eyes closed. Every step you take is observed, guided, and protected by a higher force, and it is this same force that will sustain you as you begin to take on your role as a chosen one. Adulthood also brings the need to make conscious choices. While the world around you remains distracted by the illusions of modern life, you are called to look beyond, to see the truth that few can perceive. Spiritual awakening places you in a position of clarity, but also of solitude. You may feel that the further you progress on your path, the more distant you become from the people who were once part of your life. This does not mean you are alone. It means you are being taken to a higher spiritual level where few can reach. The awakening can be frightening, but it is also liberating. By recognizing who you truly are, the chains that bound you to the past begin to loosen. You realize that you are not here to please everyone, but to fulfill the purpose that God has given you. And with this clarity comes a peace that the world cannot take away from you. No matter how difficult the path ahead may be, you know you are being guided. From the moment you took your first breath, your life had a destined path. And now, more than ever, you are beginning to walk toward your divine mission. We have reached a crucial moment in the lives of the chosen ones, a point where the divine purpose begins to manifest itself clearly and undeniably. After years of silent preparation, inner struggle, and spiritual awakening, you begin to understand that your life is part of a much greater plan, a plan that transcends human understanding. At this moment, it is no longer just about who you are, but why you are here. The weight of this responsibility is immense, but it is also liberating. You were chosen for a special mission, and now is the time to act. Perhaps you have felt that up until this point, your life has been a series of tests, of trials that seemed endless. But now everything begins to make sense. Every challenge you overcame, every disappointment, every loss, and every tear shed were divine tools molding you for this exact moment. And here is the most powerful truth. You were never alone on your journey. God has always been by your side, guiding your steps, even when you couldn't see it. Your purpose is not a coincidence or the work of chance, but a divine calling that has always been within you, waiting for the right moment to blossom. Now that you've awakened to this reality, the next step is to embrace the role that was destined for you. Being chosen is not just a spiritual title, it is a responsibility that requires action. The world needs you. Your light, your wisdom, and your gifts are essential parts of the divine plan to transform the environment around you. And here's a secret that many chosen ones take time to understand. Your purpose is not only in the future, it is already happening in the now. Every action you take, no matter how small, is contributing to the realization of this greater plan. That's why the call to action is so important. Now, more than ever, you are summoned to align your choices with your purpose. This may mean leaving certain things behind: habits, relationships, or even old ways of thinking. As a chosen one, your mission no longer allows you to hold on to what doesn't serve you spiritually. The path you must follow is clear, but it requires courage. Courage to be different, to swim against the current, and to face the criticism and curious looks from those who don't understand what you're going through. But you weren't chosen to please everyone. You were chosen to serve a greater purpose, and that's what matters. The chosen often feel the pressure to be examples for others, and that responsibility can seem overwhelming. But remember, God didn't put you in this position by accident. He gave you the strength and the gifts necessary to fulfill your mission. Sometimes you may doubt yourself, wondering if you are truly up to this calling. But know that this is just a part of your journey. Every chosen one goes through moments of insecurity, but it's in these moments that your faith needs to be strongest. When you feel like you have no more strength, remember that divine strength has always been within you, waiting to be activated. This is the moment when your purpose starts to influence not just your life, but the lives of those around you. You'll notice that your presence, your words, and even your actions have a bigger impact than you imagined. People may be drawn to you, seeking advice or comfort, even without understanding why. This is a sign that your light is shining brighter. Your purpose is to be a beacon for those who are lost, guiding them towards spiritual truth. In doing so, you will fulfill the plan God has had for you since your very first breath. However, being chosen does not mean the path will be easy. In fact, the closer you are to fulfilling your purpose, the more challenges will arise. This happens because the world around you may resist transformation. But here's something you need to remember. The challenges are a confirmation that you're on the right path. Every obstacle you face is an opportunity for growth, a chance to prove to yourself and the universe that you are ready to fulfill your destiny. And with each victory, no matter how small, you get closer to fully realizing your divine purpose. This is the moment to make conscious decisions, to choose to live in accordance with what you were called to do. The time for hesitation has passed. Now, you must act with confidence, knowing that the universe is conspiring in your favor. Everything you need is already within you. The gifts you've received, the experiences you've lived, and the wisdom you've acquired over the years are the tools you will use to fulfill your mission. Every step you take from now on is a step towards the realization of this divine plan. Now that you understand how grand your journey is, don't let this truth go unnoticed. You are chosen, and the world needs your light. It's time to act. Take this moment to reflect on everything you've lived through and how it has shaped you to fulfill your purpose. Share in the comments how your awakening has been and where you're watching from. I love learning more about you. And if this message touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and activate the bell to receive more videos like this. Your journey is just beginning, and I'm here with you every step of the way. Let's grow together. May God always bless you, and I'll see you in the next video.